There Is No Escape is a Roblox game that genuinely surprised me when I first played it. On the outside, it seems like yet another bait-and-switch horror game that follows in the footsteps of Jim's computer. And while it's got some moments of familiarity, this is way darker and way more personal than any story or other bait-and-switch game that I've played in recent months. In fact, calling it a bait-and-switch game would be kind of a disservice to the game, because it does not pull its punches at all when it comes to the dark themes. This is a multi-layered story about grief and mental health struggles through and through, and I don't think it's meant to be, oh well, it's just a trick. And I don't mean that as a diss to the other bait-and-switch games either. Most of the time, weird strict dad, they have enough heart and soul put into them that I enjoy them nonetheless. It's just nice to see a game try something new for a change. Anyways, without further ado, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's dive into the lore of this game. So, in this game, we play as Jim. No, not that Jim. This is a different guy. This Jim is a 47-year-old man living in the year 2006. He also has a wife named Jane. We begin the game with a text conversation between the two, where Jane reminds Jim to take their medication and to be wary of any firearm, and told to just not keep them near him. The game cuts away from this, and has Jim waking up from a nightmare. He has to use the bathroom, but quickly gets distracted by some rats running across his house. Jim finds sticky notes posted all around his house as well as a book surrounded by candles. Jim tries to call Jane, but the phone service simply says that there is no number registered under her, implying that she is now dead. The player enters the bathroom, but is suddenly transported to an endless corridor, where they relive the best and worst moments of their life. We see Jim's wedding to Jane, the time that they spent together, the schizophrenic drawings that Jim began to create, and the car crash that would eventually lead to her demise. We also see a note left by Jim on a bedside, which implies that he tried, or succeeded, at killing himself. After a jump scare from Jane, Jim ends up at the base of a giant clock, one that's mentioned in one of the notes in his house earlier. Jim realizes that there is in fact no escape. Two endings can occur here. If Jim picked up the gun from earlier in the hallway, he grabs it and shoots himself, in a scene that pays homage to Jim's computer, with the scene after implying that the hallways were just a dream and that he shot himself in bed. However, if the player did not bring the gun, Jim will instead close his eyes and reflect. Jim realizes that he is not real. Jane wasn't real either. Nothing about his life or his trauma actually happened. He is just a mentally sick kid in a hospital, dreaming from his hospital bed. His real name is Jimmy, and nothing that happened to him within the game was real. It was a dream within a dream. After this shocking revelation is revealed, the game cuts to a scene from the hospital, where we can see a girl that looks a lot like Jane call Jim down for breakfast. Likely a worker at the hospital, as it is implied that she is meant to be what his mind based Jane on. So the story seems pretty open and shut, right? It's shocking, it's sad, it's scary, but it's all pretty cut and dry. Everything's laid out for you, right? Well, not everything. There is one thing that is not laid out for us. How did Jim end up in this hospital in the first place? Well, while it's subtle, I think the game gives us the answer. We know that the dream within the dream is something that repeats over and over again, which explains the post-it notes that explain what Jim needs to do, because he's already been living through this dream over and over since we can assume it's a lucid one. We also know that the bad ending is how things are supposed to go each time. Jim follows the note that's posted there and shoots himself, causing him to wake up from the dream within the dream, and causing the cycle to repeat itself the next time he falls asleep. The reason it's so vivid is because, once again, it's likely a lucid dream that's stirred up by his mental illness. Anyways, through the lucidity of the dream, there is a moment where an unknown voice speaks to Jim, telling him the following. I believe that this voice is either his own conscious, or perhaps the nurse Emily from the outside trying to get through to Jimmy. At first, it seems like this voice is referring to the car crash that killed Jane, but when it speaks, and the way that it speaks, it sounds a lot more personal. And since dreams, especially lucid ones, are usually stirred up based on real-life events in a person's life, I think it's entirely possible that Jimmy himself was part of this car crash. a crash that he would have easily suffered a severe head injury from that would forever scar him for the rest of his life. We also know that Jimmy, quote, has no mother or father left to be by his side, implying that they could have also been in the car crash and could have died, and could have also been the origins of his depression. The note that he leaves on the bed also has some more disturbing new context when put through the lens of a child's dream within a dream. Perhaps Jimmy already knew he had these symptoms and caused the car to crash himself in a deliberate attempt to end his own life. This could also add up to why he's in a mental health facility on top of all the other conditions, and also why his parents wouldn't want to visit him. These are just theories at the end of the day, but the story is already dark and sad as it is, so I think these all hold some merit. Anyways, I think I'm going to end the video off here. Sorry if it was kind of like a downer, but this is like a really, really sad, deep, emotional story, and I just think it's a really cool story, though. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like the video and comment, algorithm stuff, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.